Hi Max, how are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to be in Bahrain. It's my first trip since COVID, meaning it's my first trip practically in 2 years.
Except the one from Geneva to Dubai.
Geneva, Dubai. That's normal, but getting out and meeting old friends, feeling a little bit normal again.
Yeah. When was your first time visiting Bahrain? You remember that?
Oh wow, probably Jewelry Arabia 23 years ago.
23 years ago. So you're familiar with the place. You live in Dubai, and we spoke about all your history. Remember the interview we did. So today we want to speak about some masterpieces. We want to go back to your, maybe not your first collaboration, but people don't know that you do a collaboration every year, almost, right? With the brands.
I'm discovering this. We've been doing collabs since 2009, which was actually the Alain Silberstein HM2, and you're right. People are starting to tell me, "Oh, you do collabs. Oh, you did a Moser collab." I'm like, "Yeah, of course we did." But we used to do one every year. But of course, also with creators who are very little known. It could be a Chinese artist somebody's never heard of. Alain Silberstein. We did 2 collabs, 2009, 2016, and now finally people are waking up to Alain's genius, thanks to Leziyarة, for example. And I love what he's doing with them. And we're like, but we worked with that. and everyone's like, really?
Years and years.
Yeah, we did. And Stepan Sarpaneva, we did 2 moon machines. What was it? 2000, and I'm going to say, wow, it's a good question. 2011, I think.
That's a long time ago.
And 2017 or 18. And
but the thing about you, Max, you do it with people that are not made it. When you worked with Moser was already, let's say, booming, and people are paying attention to independence and such. But if you go to 2009, 10, 11, people don't really pay attention to independence as they do today. And that's the question I'm going to ask you towards the end. But let's speak about this horology machine. So how did it come an idea to work with Stepan, especially with the moon?
So, Basel 2010, I'm going to say, I come out of my mini booth, because we had mini booths in those days, like 2 pieces of plywood which were nailed together. And there is a Stepan Sarpaneva, who I've known for many years, and a friend having a coffee. And I sit down with them and I say, "Hi guys, how's life?" And Stepan looks at me and he goes, "You need a moon." Like, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea, Stepan? He says, maybe.
People who met him.
A week later, after Basel, he sends me a sketch, and it was based on our frog. And he turned it around 90 degrees and put his moon as the rotor instead of being the battle axe rotor. And it was the first moon machine. So 2011 we came out with that, and I think it's 2011. And working with Stepan, like working with Alain, is so much fun. And I think there's a lot of secrets to a great collab. There are a lot of things which can make a collab be a disaster. But so what you need to make sure, you need both of us want the same thing. Okay. If one wants to create a great product and the other one wants to make a ton of money, it's not going to work. Yeah, both of us need to forget the whole money thing and say, let's create something incredible. Second, you need the same values, and you need, how to put this, we've all got egos. Us creators don't have small egos. We've got pretty big egos.
Whose names comes first?
But even if he comes up with an idea which I'm like, I'm not sure about that, I have to let go. I have to accept that his idea maybe is not the one I would have chosen, but it's his idea. So, and then the other way around also. So big egos need to have the same values and the same respect for each other, so that we can actually accept what the other actually says. Well, and I always remember the first Silberstein piece, when I pitched him in 2008 at a dinner in Singapore. But the first time I'm meeting him, I'm like a fanboy, like, "Alain, would you redesign some piece of mine?" He was like, "Yeah, sure." And I was expecting something full of colors. It's Alain.
Yeah, sure.
And he sends me a drawing. He still is in 2D. Even today, he does 2D drawings. he'd taken my HM2 and wiped out all the structure and just made it what he called a black box. It's just like a simple black box. I was like, well, no, Alain, so I didn't answer.
And yeah.
I didn't answer him for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. I'm like, I'm upset. I'm like, this is not what I wanted. And the third day he sends me an email, said, did you get my design? I'm like, mm-hmm. Now I have to talk to him. Now what am I going to say? And I just thought, you know what? If you're going to give your piece to another creator to change, you have to accept that that creator is going to do something you actually didn't want. And I called him up, I said, okay, and we did exactly what his design was. Yeah. And so you accept that. And the third thing you need for a great collab is two very different worlds. You don't want to have children with somebody who's exactly like you, because then it's a copy-paste. Yeah. You want to have children with somebody who's very different from you.
It's more fun.
And that enriches in a collab. And typically, so Stepan did Moon Machine 1, yeah. And then, what was it, 5-6 years later, I sent him a message saying, so, do we still need a moon? Yeah. He said, yeah, of course you need a moon. And so I said, you choose whatever you want, and he chose the HM2, right? HM8, and basically redesigned with his graphic design the rotor and the whole back, with actually you've got even the shape of his case at the back. Sure. But more importantly, he introduced the very first projected moon phase. So this watch has a moon phase underneath with a third sapphire prism, which is sending his face, because his moons are his face, vertically. And so we did, I'm going to tell you, 3 times 12 pieces, titanium, which actually makes the HM8 so much nicer to wear, because a big watch should be actually light. I only understood that later in my life. There was black titanium and red gold. So 3 times 12 pieces. And here is, if I'm not wrong, the last of the new titanium Moon Machine 2s.
Amazing.
Cool piece. Cool piece.
It's always good to go back to those days when independence, because I heard a lot of stories, and I actually visited him in Finland to his workshop, and he showed me, and he was very proud of it, and I saw it for the first time there, and you mentioned something of like independent 10 years ago. It's totally different. So I'm gonna ask that later on, but the next watch I want to talk about, which is something again bold coming from Max. I know the legacy machines are getting their own life. Let's say people are maybe more like, it takes guts to wear these watches, right?
It's a much easier access to get into legacy machines, of course, than into horological machines. When you're a horological machine client, you're seriously disturbed. You're completely lunatic.
Yeah.
I mean, in the rate of, I love you. If you've got an HM, I really love you.
Nice.
Because you are out there. You've got guts, and so it's not that I don't love people who've got legacy, but it's a different story.
It's a different thing.
It's a different story. So legacy machines are a stepping stone into our world. It's much easier to. I mean, you get a Legacy 101, like we just re-released with the double Moser hairspring. You do the steel piece with a blue dial.
It's a good intro to the brand.
Not like that watch, honestly.
100%.
Even
the waiting
today,
list actually,
classic,
it's a good.
and the waiting list is a tribute to that. But any classic watch lover, even though he'll find it a little bit crazy, he or she can wear it. You go into something like this, you're going into a completely different category. You're going, as I said, certified lunatic, and that makes me so happy.
That's what you started with, like. You introduced the legacy machines way ahead, and honestly what I love about mb&f, you keep doing this crazy stuff, because I know even from the back end, if I look at it, it costs so much money to produce a new watch, a new sapphire, a new case. Legacy machine, I'm guessing, is going to be much lower in cost when it comes to it's the same case, more complications.
R&D, production. I mean, you do a Bulldog or an HM8 Moon Machine 2 case, it's the cost price of, I'm going to say 5 legacy machines.
Oh.
5
for
to
one.
10, depending on for one HM. The movements, of course.
Yeah.
you have to find completely different solutions, much more three-dimensional, etc. And of course for much smaller quantities.
True.
So your R&D is much higher, your production costs are much higher for much smaller quantities on the long run. We craft about what? I'm going to say 20 bulldogs a year. Bulldog is another story.
Yeah, let's talk about the story of the bulldog. Like
Bulldog, true story, appeared to me.
okay.
It was the first watch. There are others which will be coming out. The first watch which actually appeared to me. Before I used to sketch. And I would sketch, and my sketching would drive me to certain spaces, and I'd work on them, etc. This, I am in Japan, completely zonked, jet-lagged, dead in the bus from the hotel in the center of in Ginza, going to the airport bus, which leaves at, I don't know, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'd slept 3 hours, and I'm like, and for whatever reason, this watch appeared to me. And this is not a joke. It seems so crazy that I would be crazy to actually invent a story like that.
Okay.
It's actually true. And I saw this watch, which was going to be like a dog with eyes and the jaws, and I'm thinking, oh, this is pretty cool. And then, since then, my creative process has switched to that. So now, virtually everything you will see has been created that way, where I just imagine things come into my mind.
So you start with the object, let's say.
It's always started with a concept, but here now, instead of sketching, it actually comes completely. And that's happened since I've been living in Dubai. Why? Because for 7 years, recently it's been more difficult, because of Zooms, unfortunately. I would afford myself an hour every 2-3 days, where I just put my phone away and sit in the garden and think. Isn't that the ultimate luxury today? An hour to think. You know, an hour just to think is a really long time.
Yeah.
You sit down, you put your alarm, 1 hour, and you will not leave that chair with doing nothing for an hour. And so you can think of personal stuff, business, creative, etc. I must admit, there are a few years when my daughters were born where I would just fall asleep.
During the hour.
But then, so you just let your mind wander, and ideas start forming. A lot of my clocks were born that way.
Yeah.
And so Bulldog was like that.
Came to you.
Bulldog.
So you have no relation to bulldogs. You don't have a bulldog.
I had dogs when I was a kid. I used to love. I love dogs, but I haven't had the opportunity to have dogs since I'm 21.
Yeah.
And I just love the idea. I love the idea of having, for the first time, an animal. I've done animals in clocks, but never in watches. And this allows you this really beautiful profile, which makes me also think of like the 60s and 70s concept cars. They had a few cars like that, and you've got the eyes, and you've got of course this jaws.
Yeah.
And jaws also comes. There's all these different. Remember the old James Bonds, where there was this guy called Jaws, this giant who had metal teeth, and he used to terrify me as I was a kid. And that's there. And so all these things sort of come into that. And honestly, the Bulldog is a bit like our best of album.
Okay.
You know, when you have the best of, you got every single part which made our HM story in here. So HM and even LM, flying balance wheel from the LM.
The split.
The domes which turn, which are the frog.
The frog guy was actually, when you see it.
Of course, a completely 3D. It's got a little bit actually of our Nitro, which was the collab we did with Urwerk in 2012. If you look at the Nitro, which I designed with Eric Giraud, it's got a little bit of that in there. The 3D Power Reserve, which was the Legacy Machine one, but then we completely modified it into these incredible jaws. The attachments, which are the HM4 attachments. The double crown of the Flying T and others, etc., etc. You've got a really 1970s look to the back with that bulldog thing.
And it's
super cool.
I know, and when people see it, they think it's not wearable. Like one of the things about the first the horology machines, people would say, "Okay, I like it, but it's like
too big,
rectangular. It's too big." The
HM1 and HM2 today, when I created them, they were the most incredible pieces I've ever created.
Yeah.
I look at them today; they're too big. I mean, too big. I mean, luckily, people who love wearing them still, but today, in what people want to wear, it's complicated. This
is very wearable.
This is super wearable.
Yeah.
And I often say it's physiologically perfectly easy to wear. Psychologically, it's a little bit complicated.
I'm glad that you agree with that. Like I'm glad you say that. Like it take guts to wear these kind of watches, and I'm so happy that people are paying more attention. People are not like adhering to the tradition of watches, square, or I mean a circle watch and such, which is gonna move me to the second watch we have, or the third one, sorry, the legacy machine. So the legacy machine, you had a huge success. You started with a few models and then you added a simple one, and then we ended up with things that came out of Dubai, right? And I'm hoping to see more sporty legacy machines, but that's something else we're gonna talk about. Let's talk about the new edition you have.
So, interestingly enough, for many years, so the first legacy machine came out in 2011, 10 years ago. We just did LMX in 2021.
Yes.
And everybody has been thinking that legacy machines were the biggest part of our revenue and our sales. Because it made sense. And that was absolutely wrong till 2019, where we had the first shift. In 2019, for the first time, legacy machines accounted for more than 50% of our revenue compared to horological machines. So people were always going for the crazy pieces. And so on this particular piece, the Evo, as I explained, it's my Dubai created watch, because I'm lucky to have a swimming pool, living 5 minutes from the sea, have 2 wonderful daughters who, when they come back from school, usually the first thing we do is jump into the pool. And I had only had watches with croco straps or leather straps. And there were 2 exceptions, HM5 and HM7. But I remember I was in my pool one day thinking, I want my perpetual in the pool. Now what a spoiled kid.
Yeah,
what a spoiled brat.
It's not
seriously.
Price tag is not that.
Like, like I want my perpetual in the pool.
Well, you get to see that.
So I worked completely the case with Eric Giraud. It's always with Eric, our designer, that we work with everything, and said, look, we need something completely integrated, rubber strap, but I want something elegant. Too many beautiful watches, or the brands, when they made them sporty, lost a lot of elegance. And sort of this sort of thing that sporty is chunky. Sporty
big.
is satin finish, sandblasted, big numbers, big hands, red, blue. I don't want any of all that. I want the beauty of our legacy perpetual, but I want it in a way, and that's why we call it a watch not for sports, a watch for life.
Yeah.
When we launched the Evo. And I think we did a pretty good job out of it. And this case, where we took the bezel off and made the glass sapphire right to the end, makes it look much thinner. The rectangular pushers we love so much that we actually introduced then afterwards that on our just released perpetual, classic perpetual in palladium. Of course, the screw down crown, things you don't see, like the what we call the flex ring, which is this. Did patented? I don't even know if we patented that. We tend to not patent anything. It's a system which our CTO invented, which is actually a metal part which has flex like this, unlike that.
Kind of a suspension.
Like a suspension in both ways. Yeah. So, because at the end of the day, you've got a massive balance wheel in brass, so it's very heavy. It's got inertia, 18,000 oscillations an hour. So that's definitely not a sports watch, and definitely very shock adverse. True. So by actually suspending the movement, you take out that issue. I actually went playing golf with it
Okay.
this summer, and I played golf the last time in my life 20 years ago, so it was a horrendous experience for everybody looking at me, and most specifically for my watch.
Yeah.
But it was okay.
That's okay, yeah.
It was okay.
And that's the whole point of doing it, right?
You can take it, and I remember I was wearing mine. I was on holiday in the Maldives at the beginning of the year with some friends, and these friends were big watch lovers. Like, you're actually going into the water with it, and I was swimming all week, never took my watch off. Like, really? Like, look, if I don't test it, who's going to test it?
Sure.
So, and everything went well. Never any issue happened. So
Very
that's the idea. We did, you remember the 3x15, the original zirconium
Yes.
piece for the 15th anniversary last year? And they went like that.
Yeah.
And it took us a year to have the courage to come out with the second version. And now we're virtually not doing any more limited editions.
Across the brand, right?
Across the brand.
Yeah.
So this is a not limited, but we're crafting 20 to 25 movements a year. And
demand is
now
from at least.
now it's, as you said, the world has changed. And now we're on waiting lists of 2-3 years on virtually everything we come out with.
Yeah.
Part of me is super happy, I will say.
That's my last question, actually.
Because, I mean, after 16 years and 19 calibers of insane work, to see that so much orders, you do feel, there were years in the past where I was traveling around the world, and every city I would arrive,
Right.
I had to think, I have to sell a watch. I have to sell a watch, because if I don't sell a watch, I'm not paying the salaries.
Yeah.
That was 10 years ago. Now you're like sitting back and going, wow, okay, that issue is out.
Okay.
Now we can concentrate on getting all the technical challenges into life. And it gives me even more freedom to create.
Okay.
So
There's
imagine.
more love. There's what do you feel? But is it easier for you, Max? Is it easier for you? There's more pressure? Is it?
No, you know what's not easy? Is expectations. Meaning,
Like people
10 years
expect,
ago,
yeah.
every time I came out with something, people were like, whoa! Now, after 19 calibers, they're all sitting behind their computers going,
Let's see what.
you better wow me. You
True.
better blow my socks off. Like, dude, that's not the point. I will always create something which amazes me. So I think I'm pretty much okay, but there will be people who will feel that maybe my creativity is waning because we've given them so much adrenaline over the last 16 years. There's a point where probably they won't be feeling anything. So, but I think we've got in the pipeline a few things which should blow their socks off.
When do you expect to see these?
All in the years to come. We've got 8 calibers in the pipeline.
Wow.
That's mb&f. In the meantime, you may have heard of that little watch called the Mad One.
Who didn't? And we asked you, and can I ask you for one here? No.
So you definitely can. Everybody can ask.
Yeah.
So next year we'll do a variation, which will be a little open to public. But even there, I mean, we're already at a 10 to yes, we are at a 10 to 1 ratio of already people who've written to us compared to what we're going to produce.
I know.
But who expects a watch brand which has got its little following at, I'm going to say, $120,000 to $150,000, which is our sweet spot,
Yeah.
to come out with a $2,000 watch,
And
which is a total suicide.
And it's part of Max. This is what people say. Like, I can't afford the Frog, I can't afford the Bulldog, the legacy machines, but I need something from Max mind. So that's why people are going crazy about it.
I did it for my friends and family, which never even were able to get it, because then we decided to give it only to the tribe.
Yeah.
So they will get it next year. But it's also that adrenaline of taking an incredible risk and putting your company in danger, putting your reputation in danger. That gets our adrenaline going. And therefore, it amazes other people.
Yeah.
So there are a few things like that in the pipeline, where we're putting ourselves in danger again. But of course, this whole X years waiting list, because we don't want to grow, allows us to be much more serene on taking risks. If they completely bomb, well, they bomb, it's okay. I mean, I'm not putting my company in danger.
Yeah, but it's not going to be a spin-off of, still going to be part of mb&f.
I think mb&f is going to be larger than mb&f in the years to come. I think we're going to basically become a mad galaxy.
Okay.
Because when you think of it, you've got mad galleries.
You have galleries around the world now.
You've got mad editions. And now, you've got the clocks and the music boxes and the other things coming out, and I've designed this really cool, I've often said it, coffee machine, and I'm working on an insane pair of loudspeakers, and I think we're just, mb&f is going to morph over the years into what I call the mad galaxy, and mb&f will be one of the items of this galaxy, which will start at $2,000 or maybe even lower with other stuff, because I've designed other stuff which are not watches, which I would like to see come to life. The other thing also, coming out with the mad one for the tribe made me understand I would really enjoy creating other things. I'm not saying watches, other things for the tribe. So I've started drawing other crazy stuff which is not at all a watch.
You did the hat that went crazy.
I'm working on something which back to my childhood also, and just trying to enjoy myself. We create communities. That's what mb&f is about.
Sure.
We create communities with all our supplier friends, communities of our clients, our fans, our team, of course, and so we have to feed those communities. The other things we do is we inspire people. That's what I realized. You know what makes me much more proud than people liking our watches? Is inspiring people to think different. Is inspiring people to take risks, to be creative, to be entrepreneurs, to get out of their comfort zone. And I get so many messages I've had over the years of people said, love what you do, can't afford it, but you know, it changed my life because I decided to do this when I saw that you did that. That is the why of mb&f. Starts with, we're here to inspire people to think differently.
Beautiful.
The what is the watches, but the why is much more important.
Amazing. Max, thank you very much for your time for the second time. I really appreciate it. And honestly, I'm a huge fan, personally. And I would love to own the Bulldog, or at least start with the Legacy machine, or the Mad.
We'll find a way. And I'm sorry because I keep on talking very, very long. So it's,
I would love to have you for the second time, and please visit Kuwait. Last time you've been to Kuwait, maybe
early next year.
Early next year.
Yeah.
So I promise you to see you there and do a third interview. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.